and welcome to another exciting episode of Can It Take a K26, the show where I take a variety of blasters and see if they can be upgraded using a K26 spring. I am your host, Captain Xavier, and today we're going to be looking at two newer blasters that were lent to me by friends, so I appreciate that. Our first contestant is the Nerf Mega Bulldog. The Bulldog was originally released in January of 2019, officially, and is part of the AccuStrike series, the Mega AccuStrike series. And it has a number of nifty features. It is direct prime, which I very much appreciate, and is a good indicator of whether or not this will be able to take a K26. It has 3 barrels using a smart AR system, which has some issues as far as, performance goes, but that's all well and good. And then it has a deploying feature, which is a thing that Nerf has really gotten into. And in this particular case, oh gosh, I could do without it. It's neat when it's all closed up. It's a fairly compact thing, though the stock kind of digs into your hand if you have larger hands like me. When deployed, the stock is comically small, but you can shoulder it if you really pull it in close. It does have a nice little foregrip, though, and then it's got this completely pointless flip-up sight. It is also, annoyingly, not ambidextrous. The release to fold it back up is really only accessible for right-handed. They did not put the same button on the left side, and I don't know why. You can reach it with your thumb if you're left-handed, but it's decidedly more awkward. So that is a shame. What I really would have liked is I would have loved this exact blaster without that gimmick, without the foregrip, without the stock, without the flip-up sight, just a 3 smart AR direct prime mega pistol. That would have been fantastic. And if I get my hands on one of these, I'm probably going to turn it into that. I will probably remove this, remove that, close those all up, paint it up in my colors, and use it as a shield breaker at wars. That is what I would like. So, let's get right to it, though. The real question here today is, can this thing take a K26? Let's find out. Alright, we're in. Well, I can see where I'll be making my cuts when I go to minimize this. Annoyingly, the plunger head does not come off easily. So we are going to have to do it the hard way. Hard way being taking hold of the spring with a pair of pliers, forcing it off the side, and then threading it off. We do not have a lot of room for compression in here. So trying to work out how much compression this thing needs, and it goes all the way. That explains why that spring was so weak. I don't think this cap is strictly necessary. And looking at it, I really think it might be better. We might be able to. We won't be able to get K26 in unless we remove the cap in order to allow more compression. Now the next question is, are we going to be able to get K26 in into that plunger head? And I really wish I could get that plunger rod off of there, because I think it will fit, but only if we can Dremel out. Oh gosh, it's close. But you can see the 4 little supports that are in there are going to need to go, and I'm not sure how I'm going to get those out. See what we've got for gizmos. Alright, now we need to figure out how long of a K26 we can get in here. So to grind out those supports, I used a round grinding head that I was able to just reach in there and get it off. And now I am feeding the spring onto the side because it's the only way to get the spring back on. So K26 will fit, but with this cap on there, there is not a chance that we are going to get enough compression. Though this spring is probably considerably longer than it needs to be. Yup. So it looks like we could take 2 full coils off. I'm gonna take the plunge and hope this doesn't ruin anything. Okay, I have taken that cap off entirely. And as luck would have it, the spring is still the right length. Now we still need to worry about compression. We are yet to see whether it can get enough compression or not, but to do that, I need to button it up. But first, a word from our sponsor, Rick. Yes. Not catching. Alright, I'm going to take off half a coil. If I take off much more than that, we're going to end up in spring rattle, and I'm not going to like that. Alright, it's getting all the way back, but the catch is slipping. Clearly, we need a heavier catch spring. We'll start with that. Sad and tragic little catch spring. Alright, increased the catch spring considerably. I have sharpened the catch because it was inherently slightly rounded. We'll see if this beast will catch. The catch is not holding. It caught, but now, as soon as you let off, it lets go again. So, I gotta open it back up. Alright, well that is a yes. After a bit more tweaking of the catch mechanism, I was finally able to get it to catch. And, it will fire. It is unfortunately dark and wet, so I can't get numbers for it. But it will take a K26, though I wouldn't recommend it. That catch mechanism is not particularly strong, and I don't think it'll hold up forever. I would recommend going with something a little bit lighter. K26 is just a little bit beefy for that catch. Kind of like the... similar to the catch in the Cyclone Shock. So I would recommend, if you're going to upgrade this, get a Cyclone Shock upgrade spring. The one that they sell for that. And I would recommend using that rather than K26 because it's just not going to last, I don't think. So when I finally get my hands on one of these, I will have to get one of these so that I can minimize it. I will probably go with that heavier Cyclone Shock spring. I want a little bit more power out of it, but I don't need K26 power out of it. Just don't think that's going to be necessary. But I like it. I dig it. So, let's move on to the next contestant after these messages. All of the K26 used on this series was donated by Out of Darts. Check out his new website at outofdarts.com for all your Nerf modding needs. Our next contestant is the Nerf Overwatch Diva pistol. I do not play Overwatch, so I have no idea what this is about, but it is pretty nifty, cosmetically speaking. Functionally, it's very similar to a Chronos. It's got a loading port in the top. It has an internal magazine. I believe it holds 3 rounds, which is not a whole lot. But it does have one nifty feature, which is when you fire it, there's a little bit of recoil back there. And I'm not sure what the purpose of that is or what causes that, but it's a neat little feature. It has whatever this is. Again, don't play Overwatch, so I have no idea. Cosmetically, it's fascinating. It's a fairly comfortable grip. It's a large grip, which is interesting. And I think it's pretty neat. But I want to see if it can take the K26, so let's get it open. It does have an ambidextrous safety, a very subtle one. And I like that they did make it ambidextrous. I appreciate that. So yeah, internally, it looks to be a Kronos. That is a mean looking spring. Just a fresh coil of K26. As you can see, the frequency is very different. K26 is much denser and is a thicker wire, but fairly certain that shouldn't be a problem. I mean, it's not a problem in the Kronos. Yeah, you can see there's lots of uncompressed space. So we shouldn't have a problem. We will, as we have in the Kronos, first we do need to file down the support tabs. Not very far, though. And we're going to go just the length of the plunger rod, which is about 14 coils. I apologize for not getting the coil count on the Bulldog. I forgot to when I had it open. But it's as long as you can, or as short as you can make it without having spring rattle, if that helps. Anyway, let's get this back in. It looks like the recoil is uses this little tab that gets pushed forward and hooks on this peg. Which then causes the recoil, which is neat. I think it's neat that they added that little feature. I assume there's recoil in the game, and they decided they wanted to show that. Obviously, the biggest difference between this blaster and the Kronos is the capacity. This can only hold 3 rounds. And when I first looked at it, I first saw a picture of the internals, I wondered why they didn't have the magazine curve back into this space, but then I realized that the magazine moves within that space, and so you wouldn't actually be able to, unfortunately. The K26, of course, fit. Now I just need to finish buttoning it up after a word from our sponsor.
Morty.
Yes, it can, and they are smoking. I wish I could get the numbers, but like I said, it's dark and raining here. So, that's a yes. Now, with K26, it is a bit of a beast to prime. The recoil does still work. Oh, that's dirty. I said that it was ambidextrous, that the safety was ambidextrous. It is, in fact, a lie. That side does, in fact, work. This side is just decoration. I am disappointed. But I'll move on. Anyway, yes, that is a yes for the Diva pistol for K26. I don't know how much of an improvement it makes, but whew, it looks like they are flying out of there. Like I said, the prime is a bit beastly, and the ergonomics aren't great. You can prime it. The shape of it, you can get your thumbs on there, and you can prime it if you really need to, so it can handle it. Some of the complaints I've heard about the Overwatch blasters, I think are slightly unfair, because in most of the design work for Nerf blasters, they can design a functional mechanism and then design a blaster around it. Whereas with the Overwatch blasters, because they're making blasters from the game, they have to start with a shell, and they have to figure out how can we put a functional mechanism in this, and it's very limiting. That's why the ammo capacity in this is so low, and that's why the McCree blaster is the way that it is, because it needed to be shaped like McCree's revolver, but it's very difficult to put a Nerf mechanism into something like that and have the revolver, the cylinder work, because there's no room behind the cylinder for the actual functioning mechanism. That's why, you know, in normal revolvers, Nerf revolvers, the revolver is way towards the beginning, and then the piston is behind it. But since McCree's revolver, it looks like a real revolver, there's no room behind it. And so, you know, they had to engineer around that fact, and I think that is why some of the blasters aren't as, you know, competitive as we would like them to be, or as, you know, as easily modded to be more competitive as is our hobby. But you have to remember, these weren't for us. They were for Overwatch. You know, it was an attempt to get Overwatch people into Nerf. So they made the blasters. I'm sure the cosplay community are gonna love these things, because they are fairly accurate. Definitely accurate enough for, you know, most cosplay. And so, yeah, I think it's really neat. I like that they're, you know, expanding, because I want our hobby to grow, and it is a good marketing strategy to take blasters and weapons from, you know, really popular video games and make toys out of them. It's a good marketing strategy for them, and hopefully it will lead to more interest in our hobby. I wouldn't be surprised if we start hearing about more Nerf events that are designed to emulate those kinds, the way the games play, having game modes that are designed around, similar to however these games are played. I'm not entirely sure how they are played, but I think that could actually be a lot of fun if you could figure out a way to emulate those video games as an actual Nerf event. So I like the idea. I think it's neat, and it can take a K26, so let's recap. Alright, for those of you just tuning in, or who just skipped to the end to see the results, that was a yes for the Bulldog, and that was a yes for the Diva pistol. So both of these are capable of taking K26. This one has the super robust catch mechanism of the Chronos, so I have no worries about it ever. Like, it'll eventually wear out, but it would take a lot to wear this one out. Whereas this one has the relatively weak mechanism style of the Cyclone Shock, so this one, while it can take a K26, I doubt it's gonna last. So I would go with something lighter if I were you. This one, K26 at all you want. It does become a beast of a prime, but oh, it's a lot of fun. So that is a yes for both of these. I wonder if the part of the issue with the catch mechanism was the fact that I cut this support off, which used to support the catch mechanism, and now it may flex a little bit, and that's why it wasn't catching. Like I said, I would go with a lighter spring in that one, but looking forward to getting one of these myself. This was actually lent to me by the Nerf Curator, so this will be going back to him. This was lent to me by Luchathor 13. He has devious plans for what he intends to put into this thing. He doesn't plan to leave it K26. So that should be interesting. Stay tuned to his channel to see what happens there. I mentioned in the first K26 episode of this year that I was planning to do something slightly different, and I have decided I want to do that. And I'm going to let you guys choose, kind of. So there will be a survey in the description that will include probably 4 or 5 different blasters, and I'll let you guys vote on which one you want me to do. And what I'm going to do is a full in-depth mod guide, starting with the simplest, easiest mods you can do with the least number of tools, and then progressively modding it further and further until you get to kind of the top level that you could do with something like that. And it's going to start with single-shot pistols, ones that were previously covered in K26. And it'll include ones that could and ones that couldn't. Just so we can go over, you know, we can look at ones that couldn't take a K26, but how can we get them as powerful as we possibly can? And there'll be some that are, you know, well known to be easily modified, and then there'll be ones that probably aren't usually modified, and we'll see what you guys think. That should be a lot of fun. It'll probably not be until March that the first one of those episodes comes out, because I want to give you guys time to vote, and then I'm going to need time to acquire probably some materials and probably do some research and do some testing and all of that. But that should be a fun series. I don't know what I'm going to call it yet. Probably something like K26 and Beyond, or something cheesy like that, because, you know, I like that kind of stuff. Anyway, thank you to the Nerf Curator and Luchathor 13 for lending me these. I hope this was helpful, and thank you guys for watching.